excited to be rounding up our election series with Joanne Campbell, who is up for re-election in Ward One. Welcome.
Thank you. So good to be here.
I'm so excited to have you. This is such a great chance to chat and get to know you a little bit. I wanted to begin our conversation. You've been a long time service to our community. I want you to go back in the way back machine and tell us about the first time you ran for city council. What was it that inspired you to do this?
Well, I would say, well, the former alderman, Rosa DiTucci, was stepping down, and I had always been active in the community. And then I started thinking, geez, I might want to do this. Um, I felt strongly about the community and I loved Woburn. And I thought, you know what? I think I could do some good. And I'm actually glad I did, because I feel like I was a real positive influence so far for the past 6 years. I've got a lot of wonderful things done, which I'm very happy about.
Well, let's talk about them because I think it's really, I always believe that it's important to celebrate our successes
Mhm.
and to make sure the community understands. So tell us a little bit about some of the things that you're excited you were able to do in the last 6 years.
Yeah, sure. One of the biggest projects that we were able to complete was the 3-acre Clap Park, the Clap Park at Fleming Field. That was exciting. That took years in the making to have it come out the way it is now. And so many people are using it. And especially during the whole COVID event, it was so important for people to be able to get out, have a nice place, to be comfortable. So that was nice to have done. So that took a lot of time, but that was finished. Very happy. Neighbors are happy. Another big one was, and this is, I'm not sure if you realize this, but we were having sewerage that was leaking into Horn Pond. Now, we still get water from the Horn Pond aquifers, which a lot of people don't know that. And Burlington had their sewerage pipes going through Horn Pond to the Deer Island waste treatment plant. So what happened was, years ago, the Horn Pond wasn't as high as it was. So the pipes were around the edge of the stone walls. And then when they raised the levels of the water, they were submerged. And then slowly they started leaking, and no one at first realized it. And then it got worse and worse. So when I became alderman, that was something that we needed to address right away. And working with Burlington, they paid for everything, and $950,000. They repaired it. It did take us a few months, and there was some inconvenience, unfortunately, for the walkers who'd like to walk in that area. But now it's clean for the wildlife, clean for us. So that was huge. Let's see. Another big one, our fish ladder. A couple of years ago, the fish ladder was completed. Now, I know some people might think, oh, what is the big deal with a fish ladder? But the herring that come to spawn in Horn Pond, those fish are what our wildlife feed on. So for almost 100 years, this is what I'm told, we haven't had the herring or the amount of herring that we've had. So 2 years ago, we were able to get funding. It cost about $1 million. And we got the funding for the fish ladder. And they're anticipating in the next couple of years to have almost 500,000 herring. They're not big, but still, yes.
That's kind of an incredible amount. You don't realize how much of an impact that is.
And they're called Atlantic Ocean herring. And I actually saw it when I was walking the pond this past summer. All of a sudden, I didn't even know what it was at first. There was a little brook, and I just saw these things like jumping up and down, and I saw different people watching, and it was very exciting to see that. So so those are some. I mean, what else? Gosh, Well, lots of things have happened while I've been alderman. We had the Eversource coming into town, trying to put in the 345 kilovolt lines underneath. And that was a huge fight. And I led the fight on that because it was going from the areas right up by Horn Pond where the electric plant is. Yep. We're going down Lake to Pickering, which is a teeny street, all the way down to Border, which is also a tiny street, and then on to through Main Street, and then on to Montville Ave. And the problem was that all the research that I had done showed that the EMF levels were going to be harmful, especially for children, not so much for us, we're older, but for the children that were growing and developing. And before Eversource decided to put this type of line in a neighborhood, especially a tight neighborhood, they would only allow it to go into a neighborhood where they were 300 feet from a home. You're talking 10 to 15 feet to these people's homes. So we ended up getting some really good concessions, which other cities did not get, which will test the EMF levels from the beginning and the EMF levels at the end, so that something can be done if the level's too high. And also the foundations were videotaped. So that was good as well. So that was a concession that we got.
That's a really excellent example of one of the challenges that we have as a city, right? Which is measured growth. We are going to grow. Growth is not necessarily a bad thing. Growth can be a great thing. It's certainly good for property values for those who do have homes and things, but it's also a challenge for us, right? And so this sounds like it was a good example of trying to find the balance between supporting infrastructure that they wanted to put in and making sure that residents are safe and comfortable.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, it was something that was really important. And development, I believe, is probably one issue, probably one of the biggest challenges that we have facing the city. Preventing overdevelopment, which impacts the traffic, impacts police and fire, impacts our schools. How do we balance that? How do we balance that? And I have been trying very hard on the city council to not have the overdevelopment. So here's an example of success, which is really good. And it happens to be in my ward. The Joyce Middle School area, right on the corner of Locust and Cambridge Road. There's a 5-acre parcel there. And a petitioner came forward wanting 150 units. And I looked, what do our zoning laws say? Our zoning laws say you're allowed 41 units. Wow, big difference, 150, 41. So I said, no way, because the amount of traffic that would have come from that development would have been intense. Never mind the safety of the kids constantly walking up and down from the Joyce Middle School. So I really had to put my foot down and I said, no way, 41 units. And that's what went in. So I'm very happy about that, very happy. But my philosophy is we need to do more of that. So if you're allowed as a business or a homeowner or whatever it happens to be, if you're allowed to build something on your property, you're allowed to build something. I have no problem with that at all. We have setbacks. We have all these different things in place so that the neighbors around you don't get affected. It's when you come in, and in this particular instance, you're only allowed 41, but you want 150. So if that happens, you're now harming the neighbors in the area. So what can we do so that we can still have development, but also do what our laws say so that we don't overdevelop? And one, I believe for me, and I've said this several times on the city council, one of the issues that we're having is what's called an overlay district. especially in Ward 5. Darlene Mercer Bruin, she does a great job over there because she has so much development that takes place. But the overlay district was implemented, I think 10 years ago. I'm not sure exactly. But the reason was, it was because that area was stagnant. So they were trying to add more business, to rejuvenate it, you know, make it come alive. And it did, but of course we didn't realize that things were going to, that Woburn was going to become as popular as it did. But what the overlay district does is, in the certain areas of town where the overlay district is approved, that means even if you're designated one zone, you can actually have another zone in that area. So in my view, it's almost like spot zoning. And I say this like spot zoning. It's not technically spot zoning, but it's like spot zoning. And I think now, with the amount of apartments that we have up in that area, I think it's time that, you know, we get rid of the overlay district. I don't think we need it anymore. And I think, as a matter of fact, I think it's harming us, because whatever is happening up there, everything trickles down to the rest of the city. And I know traffic is a huge issue for people. My constituents are telling me, even just myself driving around, and I just don't want it to get any worse. You know, Woburn, we have 40,000 people, but we're really still a small town. And, you know, do we want to become so big that we can't drive across town without taking a half hour to do so?
That sounds very unpleasant for all of us, I think.
Yeah.
I think it's sort of used, but it is a challenge. You know, I
Yes.
wasn't born in Woburn. I always say I chose Woburn, you know, a little bit over 25 years ago. And the amount of traffic is, you know, very, very different. I happen to live near Woburn Center, and I see it, and I happen to have a very flexible schedule. So for the most part, I can avoid the really challenging times of going through town or getting across the city. But we certainly see it backed up and such. So thank you for sharing kind of your point of view about growth and how to find that balance.
Because we need the growth. Because if we don't have it, I mean, we're very fortunate. Our taxes are low. And I cannot see that changing because of the amount of money like that we keep getting in for taxes. So we have free cash of approximately, this past year, about $20 million. So when COVID hit, yes, we are going to be losing about $4 million, something like that, for the hotel motel taxes and the meal tax and all of that, because everybody was hit so hard. But we're doing okay. Where so many cities, they are struggling. And we have a surplus of, like I had said, 20 million. Last year, we had like 19 million in the free cash. So that's our buffer, which is great. But once again, how do we balance that? There's a fine line in balancing and letting businesses build, because they were allowed. If they own their property, they're allowed. And then also looking at our constituents and saying, oh, our neighborhoods, okay, how can we not be overrun by business? So I'm trying to weigh all of that.
So let's actually talk a little bit about that. So you have you talked about some really great projects that you were able to help ferret through, and really grateful for that service. You're running again, which leads me to believe you think the work is not done yet. There's more things to do. Tell us about some of the things, you know, in your ward or across the city that are priorities for you should you be reelected.
Yes. Well, I haven't finished. So there's a few things that I almost had all my checklist from when I began almost finished. Really, one of the biggest things that is not done is the traffic improvements on Cambridge Road and Bedford Road. As I'm sure you know, that area is not good. As a matter of fact, I believe it's the #1 area in Woburn for car accidents. So, and something needs to be done. But what happens is, you say to yourself, okay, why is it that we can't get this finished? Well, it's not our road, it's a state road. And not only that, part of the area that we would need to fix is in Burlington. So we're working with the state and we're working with Burlington to try to work that all out. Well, I'm telling you, we are close. I'm so excited about this. We got $50,000. I was able to get $50,000 for mitigation funds, actually from that development, which was small, which was good, but still $50,000. And it was for the engineering design of that intersection. So the design, yes, exciting. The design is being completed. We're working with Burlington now. And it is now, we are on the list for, it's called TIP, Transportation Improvement Program. We're on the list, and that is huge. Just to get to that point, that means it's going to be done. It's not a question. Now it's getting the designs finished. I have to thank, I'm trying to think of her name right now, Tina Cassidy, the planning director. She really was pushing hard for this. And I just really want to.
Tough intersection.
Tough.
I know coming to Bedford crossing, when I'm coming from Burlington and I'm going, I just dread that light because I know I'm going to be there for a long time. And it's a tough curve. You really can't see, coming up there. So it's nice to hear that we will have relief. I imagine the when is still a question, and
it's still a question because there's still so much work to get done. Because it's not that we're taking property, but so much of it is going to have to be dug up and moved around, because some people said, why can't you just put a left turn on in that area? Well, it doesn't work that way because you actually don't really have two lanes. People make it two lanes, but you don't have the double lanes. So we really need to do that to make sure everybody's safe. So, yeah. So what else? Well, I'm going to continue with overdevelopment. I want to make sure that the neighborhoods aren't overdeveloped, excuse me. There is a project, it's not before us yet, that will be coming into Ward 7, and Ward 7 abuts Ward 1, so it will affect both of those areas. I really can't say too much about it, but it is something where I do believe business will be encroaching on the neighborhoods once again. So we'll have to really look at that hard. So that's something I want to make sure that doesn't happen. Neighborhood meetings, this is something I'd like to do. During COVID, I found that it was, I don't want to say it was easier to stay connected with the constituents, but I live right by the pond. So people are walking around the pond. I'm able to talk to them. I can see my constituents all the time. Everybody was outdoors. And I started thinking maybe like twice a year, we have neighborhood meetings, which I think will be extremely beneficial for everybody. And as a matter of fact, one of my constituents just a couple of weeks ago had said that. And I said, that is a great idea. I am going to do that. So that's one of my goals, to have that done.
Well, I love it. I mean, the whole reason we do this show is that I really believe in sort of transparency and communication, and that the best ideas come when lots of people are ideating about things, right? And doing that. So I love the idea of neighborhood meetings. I can't wait to see what happens, because maybe that's something we'll be able to learn from and do in lots of places across the city. So I think that's great. I do want to talk a little bit about diversity in our city. So we are fortunate that we live in a community that is very diverse across all different kinds of characteristics. I always say, sort of socioeconomic status and race and culture and gender and sexual orientation, and sort of we have people of all different beliefs and backgrounds, and I cherish that about our city. But when we look at our city administration and staff across the city, it doesn't always fully reflect the diversity of our community. What are some things that you hope to do to make sure that all the voices in the ward are represented as you sit in city council. That's something you've been doing, right, for some times. How do you make sure that people's of different backgrounds and perspectives is reflected in how you participate in decision making in your role?
Well, obviously, if I start up with the neighborhood meetings, that's going to have help tremendously. Because then all involved, right? We can talk, sit down, have a cup of tea, cup of coffee. Let's see, what are you thinking? What's happening? What can we do to make things better? Are you having issues? And it can be as simple as making sure everybody knows that the snow is coming and what side of the street am I supposed to park on. Could be something as simple as that, because that can be an extreme aggravation for the residents that are on tighter streets. And I do have some in there in my area. Well, I will tell you that, yes, we had two aldermen's positions that opened up. And these positions, actually, I am the chairman of personnel. And over the past 2 years, we had quite a few positions opened. Obviously, we had the city clerk's position open. We had the director of the senior center that opened. Then we had 2 different aldermen's position that opened. So all of these were opportunities for anybody, I mean, to come forward. And so I was really looking forward for that diversity, and we did get some, but I have to say that I think there was one, was it Ward 7? I think Ward 7, when we were calling out people, calling people to come and for resumes, I think we got all guys. And of course, Lindsay Higgins was the one that was leaving, which was a woman. So I found that surprising that all men decided to run. So I think that's really, probably the biggest thing will be the neighborhood meetings. Mm-hmm. I think that's really going to help.
Right. That's great. I think that's great. Talk to me about some of your favorite Woburn traditions. What are some of the things that you love to do across the city?
Yeah, I would say probably the Veterans Day celebration, or not celebration, parade, and the Memorial Day ceremonies. As you know, I'm also a singer, and for 20 years, almost 25 years, I've been singing down at the Common for Veterans Day, Memorial Day. I get to sing the armed service medley, which I love, the Star Spangled Banner, doing it with the city band, and now I'm doing it obviously as an alderman, so I get to be up there representing my constituents, and I get to sing. So I love that. That means a lot to me, and I just think it's important that we support our veterans.
I was just talking with Frank about the festival on the Common that's coming up, and caroling and the songs and the holiday songs and such that are coming up. So singing is on the mind today. I love music and the arts and things. Woburn has a lot of really wonderful traditions that we have as a city. There's always opportunities to look for new things, in addition to sort of the neighborhood meetings and things, which I think is a great idea. What other types of new injections of whether it's arts programs or music programs or athletic programs or other, educational things that we might want to do and support as a city that you would be really excited about?
Well, in my ward as it is, I mean, we have the concerts right down at Horn Pond, right off of Sturgis Street. That's been going on for many years. Many people come from all over to listen to them, and it lasts for about, I would say, 6 weeks. There's about 6 different concerts, so that's great. And then we have actually so many different things happen at Horn Pond. What is it called? It's oratoring, is that what it's called? Something like that, where they come in and they come in and they actually have a compass and a map.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, they try to find different things and routes, and I haven't done that yet, but I want to do it. I'm a big hiker. I love the outdoors, and I am hoping to be able to do that sometime. But yeah, so I think that's great. And we also have music down at the center, down near the Brickyard. We have that area there once again, which opens up the restaurants so that people can come. And then actually we have something really fun coming at the Woburn Mall. They got their special permit for it a few months ago. They came before us. What happened was the cinemas, unfortunately, they're not making much money these days, right? So there was supposed to be a cinema built in that new Woburn Village area. So it was not going forward, at least for the time being. So the area, which is quite large, where the cinema was going to go, they're making it green space. Now, not just green space, it's green space so that people can come and they can bring a little picnic lunch. They can go and buy something at one of the restaurants there, bring it over there to eat. But then in the winter, they're going to make it a skating rink.
Oh, that's so fun.
Yeah. And then they're going to have a few little kiosks for people to buy hot chocolate and things like that, which I think is really going to make our community unique. It's special as it is, but it adds a little something just fantastic. Yeah.
I love it. That is such a fun thing. So I know that we are almost out of time. I do want to just give you the opportunity for those folks who might want to have an additional conversation with you or just stay connected. What are the best ways for them to reach out to you? We've only got a few more days before elections, and
Yes.
Thank you for coming on to chat with me. And if folks have follow-up questions, how should they reach you?
The best way to reach me is by email, wcampbell@cityofwoburn.com. or my telephone number, 781-932-0543. So yeah, either way would be great, and I'll get back to you with any questions, or I should say any answers to your questions.
I love it. Joanne, thank you so much for joining me today. It has been such a pleasure to sit down and chat with you. Before we leave, is there anything else that you want to share with voters as they prepare to make their decisions in just a few days?
Well, I guess I should ask for their vote. I ask for your vote on November 2nd. I feel that I've worked very hard for the ward. I've put the ward first. I feel like I have really tried to be an alderman that was there for them and to really fight for them for things that were really important. And I hope that they'll decide to vote me in again.
Thank you so much for joining us. And Woburn, as always, please continue to take good care of each other.
Thank you. Take care.
Thank you.